So we're going to talk about Loom Network as a case study. And before I begin, just disclosures again, this is not sponsored by Loom. No funding was received. I think I'm going to talk about some other projects as well. Absolutely no funding. It's all research-based and it's used as a case study reference. There's not investment advice, as always. So for the topic of market design, I'm going to use Loom Network as an example. And we want to understand how Loom Network has applied market design to the system. And we're going to start with understanding what Loom Network is, how are they related to Ethereum, or how are they related to token ecosystems or blockchain, and then we're going to apply the three factors and how they come together. So there's also going to be an appendix where, because this is one case study that we'll do together, and then I'm going to give you a homework if you want. It's case study number 2. It's much smaller, much easier to do, and you can do the homework later if you want. Okay, so what's Loom Network? Loom Network is basically a platform that runs on Ethereum, and as a developer, you can build stuff on Loom. So you've got Ethereum here, and then you've got Loom that sits on top of Ethereum. And then as developers, you can develop games, you can develop decentralized finance stuff, you can develop marketplaces on Loom. So how does it work? To make it very simple, let's imagine this, okay? Let's say all of us, we're going to come together and we're going to make this new chocolate bar. It's called Edible. And it's going to be the most amazing chocolate bar in the world, and everyone will love it. So we've specialized in making chocolate bars, and now we have 2 options to distribute and sell it. The first one is we can build an online shop, and we can build it from scratch. So that means we build a website and then it deals with the internet servers, internet protocols, develop websites and develop our online shop. Then also have branding, PR, marketing efforts, selling efforts to start distributing them. So we have direct control of our shop, our online shop. It speaks directly to the internet protocols, to whatever servers that we have linked it up with. And also it speaks directly to people because we attract people through like Facebook ads and Google ads, and attract them to come to our online shop that we have full control of. And that's one way we can sell, so directly linked to internet. Or we can sell it differently. We can sell it through Amazon because we're too lazy and it's too difficult. We just want to focus on making the best chocolates in the world, and everything else. We want the infrastructure set. We want the platform that's already available. We want the search function to be available. The checkout cart is available. The payment gateway available. Customer service available. Distribution, as in sending the supply chain distribution, sending the chocolates from factory to the person's house. Everything available. How can we do that? Then we build it on platforms. We build it on Amazon. Amazon has the supply chain ready. The distribution channel is ready. The search functions, the review options, the reputation by people, so it's better for that people are more trustworthy of buying something on Amazon because they are insured by Amazon some way. They're just buying from a random shop, random online shop. And then Amazon already has a lot of people coming to Amazon looking for chocolate bars every day. So then I don't have to spend so much money and so much effort to attract people. I can focus on just a few marketing tools and keyword optimization, and focus on making the best chocolates. So I can do this in 2 ways. I can do this from building from scratch, building my online shop, or I can build it on Amazon because Amazon is a platform that's ready for me. So how is this linked to Loom? Loom is something like Amazon. Amazon has this infrastructure ready for you, and as a chocolate bar maker, I just need to focus on making my chocolate bar and just use whatever resources that's available on Amazon. So just open the shop, give it my name, make it very easy to find, focus on building reputation by making the best chocolates in the world. So Amazon is a platform. I don't have to talk directly to the servers of the internet, the protocols of the internet, coding the most beautiful websites, okay, because Amazon has the basic infrastructure for me. I just need to start selling on Amazon. Similarly, for game developers or for blockchain developers, there's so many things to consider. You have to design your stuff. You have to develop your smart contracts, develop your dApp, develop a lot of different things, and then market it. And yeah, we're going to build on Ethereum, which is like the internet, and we can build it directly. So as a games developer or decentralized finance dApp developer, I can build it directly on Ethereum. But there's so many things to consider. It's just too complicated, too many things. As a developer, I just want to develop my damn app, my smart contracts. Just like the chocolate bar maker just wants to make chocolate bars. So I want something that the infrastructure is ready, where I can just develop my smart contracts, execute it, and let it run. So this is where Loom comes in. Loom is like a platform where it has all the infrastructure ready. Developers just sit on it and develop. So it's like Amazon. It's like similar to Amazon in the way that it's a platform ready with infrastructure. You just use the infrastructure that you need and focus on designing and building. So back to the network effects. Loom is like a two-sided marketplace. So first it's like Amazon, right? First you need to attract shop owners to sell on Amazon, and then you need to attract customers to want to buy things that's listed on Amazon. So Loom is quite similar. You need to attract developers so that they can develop their dApps and smart contracts to put it on Loom. Then you need to get users to try and use this out. So it's a two-sided problem. So how does it work? How does Loom work? So firstly, Loom is built on Ethereum. But remember we talked about sidechain and plasma chain? So Loom doesn't build directly on Ethereum's main chain. It builds on the side chain, which is plasma chain. And instead of so right now Ethereum uses proof of work, and they're also talking about changing proof of stake through the Casper protocol. But right now Loom uses plasma chain, which is a side chain from Ethereum. It has the same security that Ethereum provides. But now they can choose the kind of consensus protocol, and they have decided to choose the DPoS, distributed proof of stake. So distributed proof of stake is where you can choose the validators available, and they will be the governing validators to validate transactions. The other thing, so that's layer one, right? Layer one, where it connects to Ethereum. It connects to Ethereum through the sidechain. The way it connects to developers is that firstly it provides SDK. SDK is a standardized developers kit. So it's basically the infrastructure. The infrastructure where developers can just like pick and choose what they need in the kit to develop and launch and test their smart contracts that they have created. And also, initially they started off with each developer has a side chain on its own, like a side plasma chain on its own. But Loom realizes that that's not what developers want. Developers just want the infrastructure and start building. So now all the developers and individuals share this one single side chain, which is your plasma chain that they have built on. So if you think about it, sounds complicated, but you think about it, it's like, on Amazon. So there are two ways to sell goods, right? You can sell on Shopify or Amazon. They're both online shops, online marketplaces. With Amazon, it's just Amazon.com, and then you look for your items, and we all share the same Amazon server. Whereas in Shopify, you have your name, like ediblechocolateBars.shopify.com, and it gives you an individual specific server or individual specific website. Whereas in Amazon, everyone shares the Amazon.com website. So it's similar like that. Initially, Loom thought that everyone would have a developers.shopify.com or developers.loom.com. It's like a individual website, individual site chain. But they realized that there's too many things to design. You have to design the web page, you have to design the systems, you design too many things. Let's just put Amazon.com and everyone will be on it. So Amazon.com is like the shared site chain, and everyone just shares the site chain. So that's how Loom works. So what about Loom Network? Just some quick information about Loom Network. So as I mentioned, it's built on Ethereum platform. And why is it Ethereum platform? Because a lot of developers are coding in Solidity, and Solidity runs on Ethereum platforms. So instead of teaching people to code in a new language, you just go where the developers are. Developers are all building Solidity, so you just build it on Ethereum so that they can test the smart contracts, Solidity smart contracts on Ethereum platform, which is Loom, which is the one with Loom. Ethereum also has the most active users, not just developers but also users, so it's easy to attract them. And the thing with sidechain is that people from the main chain can just go into the sidechain. You don't need to have new third-party wallets to transact on sidechains. You can just use your Ethereum wallet that you have and transact on sidechains. It's a two-sided marketplace, as I mentioned. It needs to attract both developers and users to the place. So it taps into other blockchain platforms as well. So this is interesting because it taps into Ethereum, right? Because it's Ethereum sidechain, but they have recently successfully allowed interoperability between EOS, and Tron. So these are two different kind of blockchain platforms, and a user that is on this games dev or marketplace. Let's say a marketplace that exists on Loom, and people with Ethereum wallet can go to the marketplace and transact using their existing Ethereum wallet, because this Ethereum wallet talks to the sidechain, which is where Loom is, that you can transact. But the good thing now is also that Loom has expanded out to EOS and Tron, and people with EOS wallet or Tron wallet can also do the same thing and transact on the marketplace. So now people from EOS, Ethereum, and Tron can all aggregate up to Loom and transact on the marketplace. So what does that mean? If you think about Amazon again, instead of because, for example, China and North Korea, they have quite different internet system to the rest of the world. So with China, you have this Great Firewall, and the protocol is generally the same, but to build websites on China, you have to jump through different kind of hoops. So imagine Amazon does that. Amazon helps you to jump through the hoops. You just build your shop on Amazon, and you can talk to internet users in North Korea, in US, in UK, and in China. This is something like what Loom is doing. Loom is like the Amazon platform, and it talks to the users in Tron, the users in EOS, the users in Ethereum. So it taps into other blockchain platforms. It has a two-layer function. So the first layer is it transacts on. It's like once again, it's like Amazon. So it transacts directly on Ethereum or on the blockchain platform. So it's like layer one. Layer one is transaction on Ethereum. So that's where Plasma Cash comes in. It collects whatever transactions it puts in on Ethereum. So that's layer one transaction. Layer two transaction is where you can use your Ethereum wallet, so like MetaMask, and then you can use it to receive, trade, and do whatever on the marketplace. So for example, one of the partners that Loom Network has is Binance. So one of the marketplaces or exchanges is Binance, where you can trade on Binance. And Binance sits on top of Loom. So Binance is like the shop on top of Amazon. And then you have people in China, North Korea, and US. We all want to trade we want to exchange goods and services, and we want to trade with each other. But we are all in different countries with different like internet protocols, right? So we go through Amazon to go to Binance that sits on top, like this exchange, and then we can just trade with each other through our country. So similarly, you can use your MetaMask wallet, your Ethereum wallet, your EOS wallet, Tron wallet, and then we can all go bypass the Loom network and trade with whatever transactions that sits on top of Loom network. That could be Binance. It's like a two-layer function. So that's the second layer where you can just trade. And that's the second layer. The first layer is that it directly connects to the different blockchain platforms like Ethereum, EOS, and Tron. It's built on Ethereum sidechain, so the developers all share the sidechain, and it's also good because then its transactions are a lot faster. It uses Plasma Cash and Plasma Chain, as I mentioned. So it uses Plasma Chain to Loom Network is built on the sidechain, which is Plasma Chain, and then transactions are secured with Plasma Cache. So as I mentioned, Plasma Cache is where they take all the transactions that is done on Loom Network on Plasma Chain, and then they send it to the main chain, and they update the main chain. Because the main chain is a ledger. Everything is a ledger. So Plasma Cache will take in all the information and then update it in Ethereum. Why is this important? As I mentioned, because they share, with my Ethereum wallet, I can buy goods on Binance via Loom Network, right? So, and I can trade with someone who's on Tron, which is very interesting. But how do I update the ledger? Because it's a decentralized, distributed ledger. How do I make sure that I own the goods, and that when I transact on Plasma Chain on Binance that sits on top of Loom Network, the transactions are being recorded and being secure in the system. This is where Plasma Cache comes in. So Plasma Cache will tell me, okay, Lisa has bought 15 ETH worth of digital asset, and the 15 ETH has now gone to someone who is on Tron. So they keep all this information and then update it in the main chain. So if I want to cash out, or someone else wants to cash out, the ledger system is updated with who owns what and who has how much money. This is how it works. It uses DPoS consensus agreement, as I mentioned. It uses delegated proof of stake. This is good because then it's a lot quicker. Transactions are quicker, and it's the goal of Loom. Sure, it's decentralization, but it's also important to have very quick throughput speeds. So it also has SDK for developers. Oh, SDK is software development kit, not standardized developers kit. It's software development kit. So if you think about going to Subway and you buy a Subway sandwich. So you can generally choose, okay, I just want meatball sub, but I can choose the vegetables involved, the sauce that I want, the kind of small ways to customize. So it's something like that. With the software development kit, you have varied things for you to choose from. Then you can just pick and choose whatever you want, and then voila, your sub is done. So similar to that, you've got a developer's kit, get to choose, and then developers can just choose the parameters and constraints based on what they want to develop or based on their smart contract and create it. And lastly, this is very interesting because the fee structure is that it charges developers. We all know that every time we have transactions on Ethereum or on blockchain, the transactions cost money, right? But as a user, let's say we're creating crypto game, and every time I make transactions on the game, I have to pay, and that's just stupid. As a game, like for a person who plays game, it just does not make sense. So instead of participants paying for it, the developers pay for it. So if you think about it, it's something like it's like a hosting structure. If you have website, you pay hosting fee every year, every month. You pay the server a hosting fee to host your website. Like Amazon AWS, you pay them to host your website. And instead of when people come to your website, they have to pay for that. It doesn't make sense. So similarly, developers pay a fee to be hosted on Loom Network. So they pay that to Loom Network, and participants will just transact as they make basic transactions for free. And then the developers can think of very creative ways to go and get to charge participants for it. So if you want to look more into it, it's available in the lecture notes at the end of this that I'll share with you at the end of this lesson. So let's go back to something that we talked about every lesson, the first lesson, the second lesson, on objectives and constraints. So when we talk about design, so design specifically, right? Defining the design space as well as understanding the objectives and constraints. So because this is a case study that we're doing, something that's very important that I really want to talk about is the objectives and constraints. What is the objective of Loom Network and what are the constraints that they are talking about? Then from there we can understand why their market is designed in this way. So there's so many objectives. As I mentioned, there's so many objectives in the world. You can rank them from 1, which is the most important, all the way to 1 million, which is the least important. But now we're just going to talk about the 3 top objectives for Loom. The first one, the main objective is mass adoption. So they want to get mass adoption by having 1 million. They want to be to build a million user dApps. So that's why they have this SDK, the standardized software development kit, where people can just choose very simply, and then the focus is to build dApps and build smart contracts to give these users to allow users to use the dApps and focus on building killer dApps. So this is number one objective, is million user dApps. The second is because the objective is million user dApps, that's why they want to build it on Ethereum, because Ethereum has the most number of developers that codes and develops based on Ethereum. So it does make sense to build on Ethereum. The second is dApp developers want to create smart contracts so that they can access more computing power. So the goal is to allow dApp developers to create smart contracts so that they can access more computing power when they need to, which is like Ethereum. Ethereum is like the giant computer. And third, it wants to be a one-stop full-service solution that allows smart contract developers and traditional developers to just create applications and build on them, and then allow users to come and use them. So they want to be a one-stop full solution that can fit the demands of developers. So of course there are a lot more objectives. These are just the main three that I want to point out. Which brings me, you can think of more objectives if you want, but let's move on to constraints first. So for blockchain, to reach mass adoption, the issue is not, at least for Loom, the issue is not scaling, but it's user adoption. So the first dApp developed, so that's why the solution for them is to look at the gaming industry. The first dApp developed is in the gaming industry. And there are a lot of reasons to be in the gaming industry, because firstly, people are more, gamers are generally more open to trying new things. And what they also do is to have the platform or the game just look like any regular game. The only difference is that the back end, instead of traditional internet, the back end is blockchain. That's it. So very easy to get user adoption. The second problem is a decentralized platform. They really want to build on a decentralized platform. So you have to choose between Ethereum or Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is more of a cryptocurrency, whereas Ethereum is like a supercomputer that can run more sophisticated smart contracts. So they decided to build it on Ethereum. The other constraint is attracting two-sided marketplaces. As I mentioned, you have to attract the users and developers. So they decided to go where developers are, which is, as mentioned, is Ethereum, because there are a lot of active users there, and there are also a lot of Solidity developers in the space. So developers build on code in Solidity smart contracts, which is available on Ethereum. So they build it on Ethereum, and developers can just execute it. Next is that it has to be really, really fast. It's very important, especially when we talk about the gaming industry. Transactions have to be fast. Can you imagine if you're killing someone and then you have to wait for 15 minutes to see if the person is alive or dead? That's not gaming, right? That's just I don't know, that's just silly. So to be very fast, they build on Plasma Chain using this delegated proof of stake, and now transactions are like 1 to 3 seconds, very, very quick. And for the lack of trust, they need to build trust, so they use Plasma Chain to secure transfer, and also, as I mentioned, to get the transfer to make sure that they take the information from the sidechain Plasma Chain and update to the main Ethereum chain to update the transactions. So what is the outcome? Which is very important in Loom. The first outcome is that they have 1 to 3 seconds transaction speed, which is very, very fast, through the delegated proof of stake as well as the Plasma Chain. They have very high throughput rate, which is very important, especially when we're talking about gaming. It has to be very quick. And also, something that's important is that it connects to Ethereum, it connects to Tron, it connects to EOS, and you don't need any onboarding additional friction, because remember the objective is high user adoption, like mass adoption. So by having high throughput and high throughput, which is a wrong spelling, high throughput and high transaction speed, you can get mass adoption. But more importantly, you want it to be very safe and easy for people to onboard your platform. So with people who already have Ethereum wallets like MetaMask, you don't need to transfer your assets to a new wallet that can talk to Loom. You can go directly using MetaMask to go and enter into whatever dApps is built on Loom, which is very, very helpful. So they have a token, and this is just some introduction to token. So it's a utility token. So the function is a utility token, which is important because you've got security and currency, but the focus here is utility token. Who can use it? You've got who uses it? Developers use it, users use it, and in the future, validators use it. Right now, we're using DPoS, right? Delegated proof of stake. In the future, the goal is that it will change in the future. Where can you use it? You can use it on the Loom network to purchase products and services. And we're gonna talk a little bit more in depth. Okay, just give you an overview. How can you use it? You can use it to run your dApp. You can use it for membership. You can use it for enterprise support. You can use it in many ways. We're going to talk about that. How many tokens are available? 1 billion tokens, and the distribution is like 35% reserved, 10% teams and advisors, 55% in circulation. So who uses the tokens? Firstly, you've got developers. So the developers use tokens for token staking and payments for running dApps on Plasma Chain. So the developers can deploy the dApps for a fixed monthly fee, like a hosting fee I mentioned. And the users don't pay gas to run transactions on the chain, but the developers pay for it. So the developers can pay in the tokens because the tokens are now access to the Loom network and access to Ethereum. You can also get enterprise support for the Loom SDK. So whoever that wants to run their own standalone chain, like own side chain, you can pay in Loom tokens, like specific access to the developers team, to the Loom development team. You can pay SDK licensing and run nodes and tiers. So this is for private chains, private side chains. And also they also work with Cosmos. Cosmos is like a interoperability chain, and there's a lot of development in the area, and developers of Cosmos can use it for smart contracts deployment. So there are many ways to use tokens for developers depending on what kind of developer are you and what level of service you're looking for. But that's interesting. I think what you're more interested in is understanding the users and validators. So because Loom Network is the platform, right? And you can build different things on top. So one of the things that they have built is game. As I mentioned, the first application is game. The game is called Zombie Battleground. And when users play Zombie Battleground, they can earn tokens by staking. They can earn the in-card games, or like a form of digital assets for this game by staking their Loom tokens. They can also, as a way to transfer their assets from Ethereum or whatever sidechain or to whatever other blockchain platforms, you will need at least one Loom token to enable that to happen. You can make payment on the Loom marketplace by selling, or like more like buttering this the digital assets on the marketplace with your Loom tokens. And for validators, right now they're using DPoS, right? Delegated proof of stake for validators. And in the future, you can create your own dApps on Plasma Chain, and you can be one of the different validators where you can earn transaction fees. So this is in the future.